I just upgraded our printing to a Qidi Xmax 3. This had a few features that were better than my Ender 5 Plus. One of which is Core XY. It's a little bit more of an advanced way to position, the nozzle, the printing head. On the Ender 5 Plus, you need to go back and reset it for it to know where it is. This is just faster and more precise. It has Klipper and it runs like a 64-bit processor, so it has more memory space to know exactly where it is. The Ender 5 Plus and most of those Crealities use 8-bit processors, so you can kind of think about it like rudimentarily, 8-bit processing in terms of graphics versus 32 or 64. So you'll find that the scene control and what have you are just better. So, for example, here, this is an old product in polycarbonate, which is still beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're just looking at the rough edges, but here, this is going to be much tighter. And then something like this would be much tighter on an Ender, the Qidi, or an Ender with a Klipper. So you can actually add Klipper to many things. And what you would do is you'd set up a pie, and you'd run Klipper next to the Ender 5, and just tell it to, it gives the commands via, USB serial connection to actually control the printer. So in that case, you could upgrade that, and the Enders are great for upgrading. And that's kind of actually why I wanted to talk about this video a little bit here too, because this was our new Qidi Xmax 3, and it wasn't all sunshine and roses. As you can see, there are some issues in the corners here. It just wasn't extruding as well as I would have hoped to see it. And I did a lot of calibrations, like a PID type of calibration. I did, extrusion calibrations, all the calibrations, and that helped out a lot. But what really brought it, this whole thing up another level, is they released quietly, a version 2.5 Hotend. So if you have an Xmax 3 or anything similar, you really should think about getting this version 2.5 Hotend. The issues it has, putting down filament, first layer is super clean. Here, I'll show you on the back. So it's able to fill everything without over extruding, which is very nice. I think the top finishes are nice too. And then you got to think, this is a 0.08 nozzle. I use this nozzle for building large things that are actually functional. So we're looking at intricate details, but really what we're building is on a macro scale. So the version 2.5 Hotend on the Qidi Xmax 3 is another pretty big jump for us. One other thing we added was a dryer. I made another video about that. The reason why we added a dryer is because when you're working with certain materials like nylon, like PET, carbon fiber, they can actually absorb water from the outside air. And even though they ship most of these things with dissect, sometimes they don't, right? And when they don't, you just be losing $40, $50 with some of these high-end printing filaments. Whereas if you are able to just have a filament dryer, you can print with them fine. And then that gets to the basic, you can print with them fine level, right? But there's another level beyond that, right? And what a dryer does on longer prints, 14-hour prints, it'll make sure that even the most hydroscopic or whatever absorbs the most water possible, even the most hydroscopic or whatever it's called, filaments on the market today, run at about 12, 13 hours. They'll start to actually absorb atmosphere. So what a dryer box can do is you actually use it to print. So some places don't have it, and they have drying and then a separate container. After it's dried, you hold it in a vacuum or something. But the one I got just continuously dries it. And I think that's a good solution. They roll nicely, and what that means is that when you're printing, even if you took it out and got a perfect, moisture perfect, something out of the you know, just from the manufacturer perfect, which doesn't happen. But let's say you did. Even at like 10, 12 hours in on a bigger, larger print, you're going to start to see defects, a little bit of defects in terms of it's just a little bit of a nicer level. So like, yes, this is an air intake and it'll work, but our new air intakes are better. And like, yes, this is printed. It's like, you know, a mask. My son likes it, whatever. You know, he's into that, I don't know, persona, whatever. But like, this is better. You know what I mean? And then you can print without a printing box, but it's probably not advisable as you start going a higher up. Same thing with the enclosure. I know people are trying to print like functional things for their engine and not use an enclosure. Just use an enclosure. It doesn't even have to be great. Even like a grow tent. Creality makes some that are just like made for 3D printing. They're like $40. It can save you a lot. If you don't want to do that, or let's say your enclosure isn't like perfect, what you could do is you can print a naval draft shield in Cura that prints a draft shield, but you really need this because you're going to start getting warping